Welcome to On the Rise. I am Evan Murray, and this is awesome. We're here to talk about all the fun facts of Chinese language music. Hello, Jocelyn. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Hello from Hong Kong.
Oh, good. Hong Kong. So what's the weather like there today?
It is right after a typhoon, so it's quite cloudy and dramatic.
Okay, yeah, we got a little bit of that last night. That was the first time we had rain here in a little while here in Taipei. So it's nice to have you here, and I'm just wondering, could you introduce yourself for the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jocelyn Chan, Chiming and I'm a singer-songwriter, an actor, and also a certified sound healing practitioner. So I would say I'm a slasher. But writing music and singing is my true love. I've done it all my life. I started off maybe just singing more like anime music, and that got me into singing. And then I was in a band in high school, and I've always just kind of believed in the healing power of music, and writing songs as a way to like be a companion for others. So I put a lot of importance on creating. And I used to be able, before the pandemic, I used to be able to kind of travel around different cities like Taipei, Beijing, and Hong Kong. But now I'm mostly based in Hong Kong.
Let's start from the beginning here. Like, can you tell me a little bit about where you were born, and tell me about like what that was like, where you were born, and give us some significant background about that.
Yeah, I was born in Hong Kong in '92. And it was really fun. It's a really fun multicultural place. So I always say this, but like I guess until I left to the U.S. for college, I don't really think I had a concept of like race or cliques. You know, I always felt like Hong Kong was quite an inclusive place. So that was quite a blessing to grow up around and just be naturally exposed to a lot of languages and art cultures. When I was 3, my whole family immigrated to Canada. So I actually lived in Vancouver for about 8 years.
Okay. So that's like, so from 3 to like, so you were, I guess you would have been like, my math is so off here, but you would have just been about 11 years old or so so what was did you move back to Hong Kong when you were 11 then? Or did you?
Yeah, so my whole family moved to Vancouver except for my dad, who is also part of the music industry. And due to work, he stayed in Hong Kong. And so it was kind of a back and forth situation. So by the time I was 11, he was like, okay, just come back. and then me, my mom, and my sister moved back to Hong Kong, where I spent the rest of high school. And then that's also when I began to like play in a band and take writing songs more seriously. Actually, mostly because of a travel experience I had with my high school, where we went to like a village in Guangzhou.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that? That sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah. So for part of every year, our high school takes us on like a trip. And that year we went to a mountain village in Guangzhou, and literally, we go down the gravel road. It's unpaved. On either side is like mountains, so you're just in a valley. It's still like stone huts. Like I don't think there's any reception. Like really, really rustic and quite special to see. And we were there to teach kids English for a week.
Okay, that sounds kind of like a holistic place, right? Like it's very earthy and I guess like very natural.
Yeah. And coming from Hong Kong, like, a huge city, it was like quite a nice difference. But yeah, we were trying to teach kids there English for a week, but unfortunately it was really difficult, and we were met with a lot of like challenges. Like we had all these amazing and very professional lesson plans and games and everything, but the students just weren't really responding to us, and I feel like there was a cultural and language barrier.
Okay. So you were able to speak with them in their mother tongue, right?
Yeah, because we had Mandarin speakers in the group too. But like we would ask questions and there would be no response. There was no like smiling. It was very
like,
cool.
super shy.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't blame them, right? Like totally alien, like this whole group of people. And then it was like the end of the whole lesson. We're like, oh my God, we haven't taught them anything. This is so bad. And we're like, okay, let's just teach them to sing a song. Like at least they can sing something in English, And we started teaching them Wonderwall by Oasis.
I said maybe, right?
Yeah. And
Were you the
like,
ones that are going to save them? That's
yeah. But like as soon as we started singing, like we just saw the most amazing transformation, like from zero response and like atmosphere to suddenly they became really into it, really happy. They went from not answering any questions to like screaming these lyrics out loud.
Hey, that's amazing. And I mean, that kind of is, the attributed to the power of music, I guess, right? How it can, bring people together.
Yeah,
That's pretty special.
And it was amazing. And like, the lyrics to Wonderwall are hard. Like, I think Noel even said he doesn't know what they're about. So
Yeah, quite metaphorical, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so for them to be able to sing it after like 20 minutes was amazing. And I guess in that moment, it just really showed me like what a power of a song can do, in this remote part of the world. And it really informed my like views on writing music. And I was singing a lot by then, but that really cemented like my want to write something.
Okay, so that was a really defining moment for you that you experienced the power of music.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
Well, let me ask you about your own music a little bit. Can you tell me about can you give me a little bit of background about your albums and a little bit about the music that you do perform and record?
Yeah. So far I've been writing all my own music. I've had 3 albums so far, I think. The first one was in 2016 and it was in Mandarin, and that was released in Taipei.
Sure.
And I like to do a lot of concept-based writing. So usually I have an overall theme and then I try to write songs within that theme if I know I'm planning towards an album. It's made it so that the 3 albums I've released so far have quite a lot of different genres in there, which some people will say, oh, it's not very like one thing, but I think that's like what I like, and that's actually like something I enjoy. Yeah.
Okay.
But for example, the first album is called Adolescence, so a mix, and it was about being stuck between adolescence and adulthood.
Right. Oh, so it's a play on words, like adolescence, but adult lessons. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so that was about just kind of, it was my debut album, so it was more about like growing up and chasing dreams and all that stuff. And then my second album was called Black and White Rainbow, and that was more exploring different states of relationships and like love and more about those kind of themes. And the last one, that was in 2019, was called Angel Sanctuary, which is based off the name of an anime, because I'm a massive nerd for that stuff. And that was about like songs against time, because during that time I had lost like a pet and like my grandma and everything. And so I was
sorry.
No, thank you. And so I kind of wanted to write an album about like, oh, if there was like a sanctuary to stop time or like protect these things, and how do we like deal with the time passing and those kind of themes.
Wow, that's very interesting. Tell me about some of your favorite artists that are. What about outside the Chinese languages? Do you have any? What artists do you have? Favorite artists do you have in like other languages per se?
Yeah. So I grew up listening to a lot of Japanese rock, actually.
J-Rock.
Yes, I love J-Rock. Like, yeah, so I just love the language. It's poetic, so I was studying it. So, like, I would copy down lyrics, and so music was a great way to learn it. And I just, I was like an angsty teenager, so I loved the visual kei, like, harder stuff as well.
Okay. Now, back in the Chinese speaking world, can you tell me about your influences or some of your favorite artists? Would you like to share with the audience, please?
Yeah. So, like, as with my generation, like, for sure, one of my favorites is Jay Chou, right? Like, just influenced everyone, I feel like.
I actually have heard that name quite a bit. That name has come up quite a bit. And what about him? What about him inspired you? Did you want to was he like a poster guy when you were a kid? Like you wanted, like you were sit under his poster and be like, I love you.
Yes, but not because of like six packs or like, muscles and stuff. He kind of just changed, in my opinion. He changed Chinese music.
Okay.
He's like the most amazing songwriter, like hit after hit of like super resonant melodies, things that we'll still sing today in karaoke. He, I think, was one of the first people to successfully like fuse very interesting arrangements and productions into more traditional like Chinese ballads.
Okay, so he was an innovator. He was very much an innovator inside of pop music, inside of the Chinese.
Yeah,
language.
like what can I say? Just the songwriting and I think he trained like every day on piano for like 12 hours when he was young or something. So like an amazing pianist as well. So he would fuse like classical music or maybe like Chinese traditional music into modern pop. And that definitely informed me of how like I like to also try to use arrangements and production to do what I'm trying to do, like say my sound healing project right now.
Okay.
But keep like very classic Chinese melody elements in my songs. He definitely inspired that.
Let me ask you kind of a strange question. This is I'm kind of wondering because I know living in like Eastern Asia for the last couple of years is that I'm kind of aware of Chinese medicine versus like Western medicine, and there is a difference, and I'm kind of wondering with your your healing thing, are you taking this from like cultural aspects? Are you how are you kind of envisioning this? Can you tell me a little bit about the mechanics? I hate to use that word, but the components of your healing music and your ideas here.
Yeah, for sure. So my most recent project is basically inspired by my own experiences with insomnia and anxiety. Which I've suffered from a lot since a young age. And because of that, I explored different natural therapies to help with that because I didn't really want to go down a clinical route. And that led me to discovering sound healing, which nowadays you might see a lot of people playing with these singing bowls, copper bowls. Or crystal ones and those kind of instruments. And I personally use tuning forks.
I saw that in a picture, and that's why I kind of wanted to get into this. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and so it's just a type of natural therapy. It's based, all the frequencies why they're healing is because they're supposedly frequencies that you can find in nature, and they're just harnessed into instruments so that we can access them anytime. And the whole concept is actually just like tuning an instrument. So if we feel bad or emotionally bad or physically ill, it's kind of like those parts of us are out of tune. And we use these different instruments to help us tune back to a better frequency based on, the theory of resonance. So it's actually quite based in physics and not exactly from any culture or religion or anything like that. It's
right, because we're all everything is vibrating, right? Everything is material. Because I do I like to nerd out on lectures, physics lectures and stuff, and I see where you're coming from with this, and frequencies it's definitely something interesting and also quite esoteric. So that's why I was kind of wondering about that. Is there now? Are you using all kinds of different pitchforks, or how are you? Man, how do I even ask this question? Is there certain tones for certain relaxing and for calming down, or what modes are you trying to put people in as well? Is it always about meditation and quieting the mind? Is that what it's typically about, or can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I was studying sound healing for a long time, but it was because of COVID when all the work kind of stopped, and I was actually trapped abroad in Vancouver for like half a year because I couldn't get back to Hong Kong. And then I got certified as an actual tuning forks like practitioner and healer. So now I actually do like one-to-one sessions with people privately and workshops and stuff locally. But so that's a great question, because definitely there's different tones for different effects. So I'm now in the middle of this like sound healing cantopop series where every song I focus on a different like emotional issue that I've like struggled through, or I come to find through my sessions with people that is very common. So for example, my first song, which was called Sound of Silence, was focused on insomnia and like regaining your inner peace. So for that song, I would infuse like, frequencies that were for calming down and for sleeping and for like really like relaxing. But for example, one of my other songs is called Thank You, My Fears, and that was about facing our fears. And so I actually infused a sound healing type of drum called a frame drum. And that was actually to invigorate people to go and like be motivated and face your fears and stuff. And my most recent one, which is actually coming out tomorrow, well, August 26th, is about letting go. So then I infused more like frequencies for letting go and releasing, thoughts and energy. So it's different every time. So great.
Like letting go of like emotional pain, or letting go of like, bad thoughts, that kind of thing. So it sounds like you're there's a gamut here of like being able to relax and being able also to let go of negative emotions, and also to invigorate and to promote like positive thinking, positive feelings. So this is all in that healing, in that spectrum of healing, I guess you would say. And writing these new songs now, so you're having this like intention and purpose of healing. So you'll have like, I guess, the tone, right? So you'll have like the frequency, and then you'll write around that frequency and then sing around that frequency with melodies. Is that it?
I actually do it the other way around, because I still, like inspired by Jay Chou, like I still want to focus on the C pop element as the core. It still has to be like a good song.
Right.
Yeah. So I actually get the song done, but with the theme in mind, with an idea of like what instrument I might add in at the end. And then we kind of figure out how the instruments can factor into the arrangement.
Now, here's one for you. Have you ever heard of the Junos?
I have, but I just can't really say what they are. It's just a name I heard of.
Okay, so that's kind of, it's a kind of a reason why I bring that up, is because we're also like through Jade Music Fest is that we're trying to make a point about that, where we know that in Canada, the Junos are like the Canadian version of the Grammys, but the problem is they're not that anywhere else, right? And the thing is, this is another reason why we believe that elevating the Chinese languages in Canada is so important. So, I just thought, don't feel bad that you don't know about the Junos. Don't feel bad at all, because it's actually quite a common thing. It's a common theme. And we're kind of trying to deliver that message back to, Canadians themselves, and why it would be so beneficial to include other languages and to really have a complete Canada, not just an Anglo version. Why did you choose to be a musician? Or did it choose you?
I mean, that's definitely how it feels. That's definitely how it feels. I grew up, in a family that's already in the industry, so it was very natural to me, right? It's like, it's not a foreign industry, right? Like I was able to visit studios when I was young and see how it works and everything. So, and music was just very natural, like kind of like something, like breathing. You don't really think about it, but it's just there. So but I think why I really chose it in the end was like, I actually tried a lot of different things and just nothing compared. And then at one point you just gotta like follow that feeling, I think. Like I interned at different A&R company like departments in various music labels. I worked at a recording studio before. I interned at like Disney before. I tried a lot of different variations to like test out whether I really liked the performing and writing aspect, and that
Okay.
really was it. So, and I
Now-
guess, yeah, it just comes back to the whole like wanting to leave something in this world, you know.
Okay. Well, did you feel like, I mean, I remember that your parents had kind of given you an ultimatum there. We talked a little bit about that. But did you feel like you were carrying on a lineage, or did you feel like you wanted to surpass or to be a part of, or like when you think back on your intentions and where you're even heading now with your career, like what was the motivation? Like, and I mean, okay, so for instance, I'll give you an example. I was growing up, a school I went to, I had no choice but to go into band class. I didn't want to be there, so I was like very disruptive, blah, blah, blah. I ended up playing the drums, but then like my parents bought me a set of drums, but they didn't want me to play it ever. You know what I mean? So they're like, you're gonna ruin your life if you go into this music thing, you know, kind of thing. And they're all like pushing me to become like I don't know, a welder or something. But the thing, like, you know, so the thing was like my pushback was actually like, you know, building myself a career and doing these things. But you're living inside of like, you know, fame, like there's famous people around you. Did you know that your dad was famous? Like, did you have a idea about that? Or was it like, did you just think, oh, well, everyone's dad must be famous? Like, what was that like?
I remember thinking, like, why does my dad go to work at, like, 9 p.m. and come home at, like, 3 a.m.?
Right.
Like, what's going on? But I realized he was just going to a recording studio. No, I mean, yeah, I had a concept. Like, I knew I was seeing, like, very cool artists, you know. I was, you know, able to go to a lot of concerts, so I knew, like, you know, he was quite a prominent figure. But like, no, like I honestly, like, I'm very grateful to my parents for this, but they didn't really give me any pressure growing up to be one way or another. They didn't really push me to like learn music or have to sing or anything like that at all. I mean, yeah, in fact, when I said I wanted to sing, they were like, no, just be a teacher.
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
I didn't feel that pressure until I debuted, really. My motivations to do music was very, like, just from myself. Like, the first song I ever finished writing properly was, like, for someone I liked in high school, you know, like, there was never any commercial. And then my dad was like, oh, it's actually a pretty good pop song. Like, do you want me to try to sell it for you?
See, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then
right there.
And then, like,
hey, that's pretty good.
But then
let me
I
hustle
thought,
this for you.
There's a bad ending to this story. Like, I thought I was being so cool, and I was like, no, this is just for that person. It's not for, like, anyone else.
Oh, that's like teenage love.
I know. I turned him down, and now I regret it because we broke up, you know, like 3 years later.
There you go.
So yeah, no, like there was no sense of like fulfilling, continuing, really none of that. It was very organic, and I really tried out a lot of different things to make sure that it was what I really liked. You know, that I wasn't trying to like walk into some sort of shoes or anything like that.
And what if you weren't a musician? Like, what if, like, where's that turning point? Like, first of all, let's touch on that. So, two aspects. Like, where's this turning point where, what if you didn't become a musician? Or was there a time when there was some other force that was like, you know, calling your name, like, over here, Jocelyn? Like, was there ever something else that was pulling you in a direction?
Yes. And I guess like now, right, like being kind of a sound healing practitioner at the same time and acting as well, I think all these things are calling me to just diversify and not be limited to one label. Because sometimes, like, even with something you love, like music, if you let it like control and limit you, like, oh, I'm a singer, so I can't do this, you know, it's kind of weird if I'm a singer and I like do healing sessions with people. Like, I think that makes it lose the point, right? It's like not meant to limit you. So I think now there's different callings, but it's still the center of like what I love. But when I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut.
An astronaut? Like, you wanted to go to the moon? Or did you like have like super futuristic astronaut like dreams, like, I want to be the first person to fly around Jupiter? Or...
No, I just loved space. Like, I had like a notebook writing down space facts when I was like 9.
Okay.
I went to like space camp in like Vancouver Science Center or something. I forgot.
Galileo. So you were going to be like you wanted to be Galileo.
I really wanted to be an astronaut, but then like I was so bad at math. Like, you know, it's just my talents are all in the artistic side. I was just so bad at math, and I have motion sickness really easily. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to be in a rocket one day. You know, I felt very weird. Like, why was I so emotional or like so like overly observant or in tune with different people's emotions or things about the world? But I guess in my own like self-healing journey, I've learned to like harness these things that you think might be weird or weak into like your strength. And so now I can use it in my music or as an actual sound healer, you know.
When you are doing these aspects, like not only are you like you're communing with people, right? I mean, and you're not even communing with people about singing like fluffy lyrics and, you know, Wonderwall and, oh, what is that? I don't know, but it sounds good. I mean, you're really getting, you know, you're going for the deepest part. And so that's, you know, it's almost like entrepreneurial in a sort of way. Like it's kind of like you have a platform. I mean, you're quite successful as it is, but now it's like you're evolving. And maybe this is like something that other artists need to think about is, you know, what more can they do? Because I don't know if you agree with this, but if an artist attracts a large audience of people, sometimes I kind of think they should actually feel a little bit responsible or maybe have the idea of responsibility for who they're influencing. You know what I mean? Or, I mean, because... I mean, the modern world is a mess, right? And I mean, so if there's more people like you around, I think we have some hope.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Like, I'm really flattered. I definitely agree with you. I try to live by that. But I guess I also think that, like, you know, again, like, if anything becomes too restrictive, it's not good. And, like, I think different artists can have their different roles. Like some people might just be a great like pop diva, and that's cool, right? You don't have to like introspect with every song and every thing. But I guess that's where I found myself. That's like my position and what I can bring. And it took a while to get here too, to like realize that this is where I was gonna try to, you know, define my music. So yeah, it's been quite a fun journey in that sense.
And that's it, folks. Please continue to listen to the next parts or continue to the next episode. Please don't forget to hit subscribe and follow On the Rise. This is awesome.